Ukraine has been struck by a fresh barrage of Russian missiles targeting several major cities. Ukrainian authorities have said more than 120 missiles were launched at the population and civilian infrastructure. Several cities from Kyiv in the north, Odessa in the south, Kharkiv in the east and Lviv in the west have been hit. The mayor of Lviv says the city has lost about 90% of its electricity. Earlier, Ukraine's military intelligence chief said fighting is at a deadlock, with neither Ukraine nor Russia able to make significant advances. Well, we can go now to our correspondent, Hugo Bachega. Over to you, Hugo.
Yeah, Joanna. So Kirilo Budanov, who is the head of the Ukrainian military intelligence agency, said that the situation on the ground was stuck because neither Russia nor Ukraine can make significant advances. And for weeks, we've been talking about how fighting has been concentrated around the eastern city of Bakhmut in the Donetsk region. But across the front line, we haven't seen major military changes in terms of positions. Winter has slowed down the pace of Ukraine's ground operations, and Russia seems to be mostly on the defensive, protecting their position. So this is what Kirilo Budanov had to say. We started by talking about warnings being made by Ukrainian officials about the possibility of another ground offensive from Belarus.
Росія зараз знаходиться в суцільному тупіку, і ситуація просто застрягла. Не рухається. Ми не можемо станом на зараз їх на всіх напрямках одностайно вибити, і вони не можуть. Ми дуже чекаємо на зміну підходів щодо постачання нам озброєння і інтенсифікації процесу постачання серйозних типів озброєнь, які нам потрібні для успішного завершення війни проти Російської Федерації.
Russia has carried out this campaign targeting the country's essential infrastructure. Do you think these attacks are going to continue?
Вони в будь-якому разі будуть намагатися їх проводити і надалі. Чи довго що вони можуть це робити? Ні. Ракет лишилося досить небагато. Оборонна промисловість не здатна виготовити достатню кількість для забезпечення постійного нанесення такої кількості ракетних ударів. Це ще одна причина, чому вони зараз намагаються знайти ракетне озброєння в інших країнах світу.
When will the war end, you think?
Все закінчиться поверненням нам адмінкордонів станом 91-го року. На цьому все.
Including Crimea and the regions that were occupied.
Крим – це невід'ємна частина території України.
So that's Kirilo Budanov, who is the head of the Ukrainian military intelligence agency, dismissing the possibility of a ground offensive from Belarus early next year, something that Ukrainian officials have been talking about, and again saying that the Ukrainians are waiting for more weapons to arrive so they can carry out operations to take back territory that's now under Russian occupation.
So Hugo, when you talk then about those concerns of another ground offensive, is it basically the situation right now that the situation on the ground is pretty stagnant, but the attacks are coming from the air?
Exactly, and I think we've heard Mr. Budanov talk about the possibility of more air strikes from Russia, and I think this is exactly what we're seeing here right now. The Ukrainians have been saying for weeks that this is how Russia is responding to military setbacks on the battlefield, by carrying out these airstrikes, targeting the country's civilian infrastructure. And today we heard from officials who said more than 120 missiles were fired, targeting cities across the country. We had explosions here in Kyiv, also the city of Lviv in the west of the country, Kharkiv in the northeast, which is the country's second largest city, Odessa in the south. So this gives you an idea of how widespread these attacks were. And we don't have confirmation yet of which locations have been hit. We know that air defense systems have intercepted many of those missiles. We have been given the all clear, so we're back here in our position in Kyiv after spending a few hours in the shelter this morning. People across the country were told to stay in shelters because of those airstrikes. So again, the Ukrainians say that they believe these attacks are likely to continue because they say that this is how Russia is responding to what's happening on the battlefield.
Thank you very much. That's